Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a Pokemon that is ascending to elite top tier status in this new Ultra League meta, and that is Shadow Skuntank. In the balance patch, Trailblaze got significantly cheaper. This allows Skuntank to boost way faster, and Shadow Poison Jabs when boosted can just completely overrun opponents in endgames. I'm using a meta strategy initially created by Jamie Finn. Fighter, Double Dark Poison, Shadow Machamp on the lead, the buffed Shadow Drapion as a safe switch, and Shadow Skuntank to sweep just about any endgame. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And right off the bat, we got a terrible lead, leading the Shadow Machamp into Galarian Weezing. I safe switch into my Shadow Drapion. They stay in, so I'm going to fire off the Aqua Tail. Thought about going for a crunch and fishing for a debuff. I will commit the shield as they go for play rough, and out comes Feraligatr. So far, the opponent pretty weak to Dark Poison, which should mean really good things for my Skuntank in the back. Crunch connects and does get the defense drop. Hydro Cannon will get the Drapion low. Drapion is going to look to farm up. Unfortunately, I'm not quite able to get to the back-to-back moves. I will fire off the Aqua Tail. They're going to shield and get the Shadow Claw farm down, denying my energy. In comes Machamp. I'm just going to use Machamp as a damage sponge here. Absorb the Hydro, quick switch into the Skuntank, and snipe with a Poison Jab. Skuntank up energy as a closer is absurdly strong. In comes Weezing, and this telegraphs that they are extremely weak to Skuntank in the back. I am going to commit the shield. Opponent is going to fire off the Play Rough. I do not want to let them get to another Play Rough, so I'm going to launch the Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be no shielded. In the back is Virizion, and my energy is completely walled. But look what cheaper Trailblaze does to Skuntank. I'm now double boosted. These Poison Jabs are just annihilating that poor Virizion. Oh my goodness, they go for the Sacred Sword. They can't even farm down. Skuntank destroys Virizion and takes the win. Another game, another terrible lead for Machamp, now leading into Giratina Altered. I'm going to safe switch into Shadow Drapion. Opponent stays to fire off a Dragon Claw, and then out comes, I was going to say Mandibuzz, but that's actually a Galarian Moltres. Moltres is going to be hit with Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail. Another situation where having a little bit of extra damage on Poison Sting goes a long way, because these Aqua Tails don't do a lot, but the Poison Stings add up quite a bit over time. Brave Bird would KO and Ancient Power will not. I roll the dice and I get it wrong. I shield the bait. That's extremely unfortunate. I'm going to fire off an Aqua Tail. This will be very close to knocking out. Opponent lets it go and it barely KOs. In comes a Shadow Ampharos. Ampharos did get buffed as well because it has access to Trailblaze, and Brutal Swing got cheaper here. Unfortunately, we have a nasty frame drop there. Thankfully, I'm still able to make my crunch. That lands, and my goodness, that does so much damage. They send in Giratina, but I have the Shadow Skuntank, and Skuntank does an amazing job at just shutting down Giratina Altered. I'm going to launch the crunch at this Giratina. Crunch, not the strongest move ever, but this is where being Shadow on the Skuntank is really, really nice, because your crunches hit very, very hard. I'm going to farm up. I notice the switch timer is not yet up for them, so they're not going to be able to save that Giratina. We basically simultaneously switch. The crunch connects, and that is instantly game winning for me. They can pick up the knockout with the Dragon Claw, but the damage is done. In comes Machamp. Opponent sends in the Ampharos. Ampharos banked quite a bit of energy, but they don't have enough to make another move, as Machamp just gets the counter down. And here, I end up going for the Cross Chop because I didn't want to reveal my payback, and I was curious how much it did. Turns out a Cross Chop does literally nothing to a Giratina, so don't Cross Chop a Giratina. It's not going to go well for you. Shadow Machamp cannot catch a break on these leads whatsoever. In comes a Florges. Florges chooses to fire off a Disarming Voice. That, of course, is their less powerful charge attack, but it does deny me a full sneak. In comes Virizion, and most Drapions are not running Sludge Bomb anymore, but there's still a chance that they might, so the opponent ends up committing the shield, and I get a Crunch debuff to go with that shield, which makes it even better. I get another Crunch debuff. Oh my goodness, what is this RNG? My word. They're going to go for the Sacred Sword. I'm going to go for the Poison Sting because I just want switch advantage. If I can get switch advantage and put Skuntank on their Florges, then I'm in a much better spot. I build up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails, so now I can guarantee switch. Opponent does decide to shield, but I can fire off another Aqua Tail, KO the Virizion, courtesy of some very lucky crunch defense drops, and win switch. In comes Florges. Florges gets that Fairy Wind farm down, but now I can bring out the Skuntank, and look at these poison jabs. They aren't even boosted yet, but they are making their presence felt. Moonblast will connect. Big damage. In the back is Guzzlord. I intentionally bank the Trailblaze, bring in Machamp, and this game is over. Machamp can survive whatever they throw here. They're actually still running Dragon Claw, so the opponent not opting for Brutal Swing Sludge Bomb, but instead sticking with Brutal Swing Dragon Claw. Cross Chop does quite a lot of damage. I'm going to get a nice counter farm down. Versus Florges, I can't make a payback, but I have the Trailblaze loaded and ready to go, and this is a range where Trailblaze will be lethal. So Shadow Skuntank once again, 3 bad leads, 3 Skuntank sweeps in the endgame. Shadow Machamp cannot catch a break with the leads leading into Dragonite. I safe switch into Drapion, and there's the worst case scenario. They bank a ton of energy, get a catch and a sneak onto Cobalion. I do get the defense drop. Crunch was going crazy with the defense drops today. I have no idea what was going on. But Cobalion into your Dark Poison is basically the worst case scenario. Skuntank used to be able to fight back with Flamethrower, but obviously now it's on Crunch Trailblaze. Here, I'm going to throw 4 and the move to do good timing, but there's another frame drop. The game state was really, really rough today. I love the changes that they've done to the meta. Overall, the meta feels incredible compared to what it has been previously, but my goodness, the game state feels terrible. In comes the Machamp. Dragonite is going to fire off energy to prevent me from making it to a potential Stone Edge or payback, and now I just have to try and sweep with the Skunk. Skunk farming up quite a lot of energy. Opponent is going to be firing off a Dragon Claw. I'm going to commit the shield, and I'm going to be Trailblazing a Dragon Flying type because I know they're pretty close to a move. My win con is to try and get the farm down before they're able to get their move, but it's just not to be. This is going to force the final shield, and I've just taken too much damage in this endgame. Out comes Feraligatr, and yeah, unfortunately, this is just going to be a loss. So the team can get hard countered. It is within the realm of possibility. If you get Cobalion on your Drapion, you're probably not going to have the greatest day. So the team can lose, but it is very strong at overcoming negative leads. We've actually got a mirror lead in the next match. Shadow Machamp versus Shadow Machamp. I go for the cross chop. Opponent is going to switch out and make a catch onto Malamar. Malamar going to be hit with that cross chop. These Psy Waves are adding up quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is bank energy on the Machamp. And now I can just send in Shadow Drapion. Drapion will fire off the crunch. Malamar is going to be able to fire off superpowers. I should be able to tank 2, just not super well. So I can survive the second. They actually don't get the second there. I don't know if they lagged or what happened there, but they don't end up getting their second. Back in comes the Shadow Machamp. Aqua Tail is going to get the shield. Opponent not going to let me get another Aqua Tail as much as I would like to get there. They're going to be able to pick up the knockout with the Cross Chop. I bring in my own Machamp, firing off the Cross Chop. Opponent does have quite a bit of energy on their Machamp. They do live the Cross Chop, and I decide since the counter went through, I am actually going to commit the shield because I just want their Machamp out of the way. In the back is Galarian Wheezing, and I'm in a great spot with Shadow Skuntank, the sweeper. As Skuntank, its charge moves may be resisted, but you can't shield poison jabs. Just start ramping up that damage. Skuntank honestly might be a little bit of a new Ultra League DGen Pokemon, as these, oh my goodness, these poison jabs are just shredding. They can Brutal Swing to get to their next on 4, so I just throw 4. Click my move to win charge attack priority. This will do 1 HP of damage through the shield to make it a slightly easier counter down for the Machamp. Well, not counter down, Karate Chop down. I'm very used to fighters having counter, and Machamp is going to get the Karate Chop farm down and take the win. At this point, I'm convinced Shadow Machamp is allergic to winning leads. Leading into Runerigas, I safe switch into the Shadow Drapion, and my opponent actually stays in. I fire off the crunch. They take the damage. Out comes Wheezing. Wheezing going to be hit with a crunch now as I'm fishing for a debuff. I've had some pretty insane debuff luck, but it's going to start to even out as I do not get the debuff there. I survived Play Rough pretty comfortably, so I am going to let this through, but they're not running Play Rough. It's Overheat. That does more damage, and now I'm in a position where I'm going to get Fairy Winded down. That's a bit of a problem, as even a -2 Overheat can hurt something like the Skuntank. So I'm going to bring in the Machamp, as the Machamp seems very useless in this game. Machamp was basically a damage sponge in a lot of these matches. There weren't a lot of matches where Machamp was really able to put in some nice work. Opponent barely able to save that Weezing as they bring back in the Runerigus. And this is a very awkward matchup. They're a ground ghost type. I have a poison fast move. My poison jabs are not doing a lot. I'm going to ramp up the damage with Trailblaze, but this is a really awkward spot to be in. I am going to commit the shield as they're going to fire off the Brutal Swing. I'm going for the Trailblaze again right away. I have a difficult call to make. Do I stay in? Do I try and commit to a farm down? I don't think I can get it. So instead, I'm going to get the prediction correct and get a catch on a Machamp. But now I'm no longer double boosted. Opponent is going to switch out in back. They have Clefable, and unfortunately, this game is looking like a loss for me. Payback will connect, dealing some okay damage. I can bring in the Skuntank. They're going to be able to fire off a Swift. I will commit the shield. Opponent, oh, they're actually running Meteor Mask still, so they haven't TM'd it just yet. I can make it to a Trailblaze. Trailblaze will be able to pick up the knockout, but Runerigus will be able to make a move. So this game is over. In comes the Runerigus, and Runerigus is able to get there. I'm pretty sure they already had the Brutal Swing, and it turns out, yes, they did. They did end up going for the Shadow Ball. I feel like I could have played that better if I fought for Switch in the mid game, but realistically, Machamp was just so useless in that game. And we see another tough lead. Machamp cannot catch a break. Oh my goodness. Leading into Clefable. I save switch into Drapion, and the Aqua Tail actually gets shielded by the opponent. If they're staying in, I don't think they have a great response, so I'm going to shield back. Out comes a Feraligatr, and this is great. I am very happy to see this here. Launch the Crunch. That will connect. There's the defense drop back on schedule. Hydro Cannon won't KO, but it does a ton of damage here. My Shadow Drapion can hang on, but not for long. I get the double up on Aqua Tails, but I think the Shadow Claw that sneaks if they shield will knock me out. And it does. In comes Machamp, doing what Machamp does best, basically just throwing it away. Honestly, if you try this team, I'd probably run a different fighting type lead. Could potentially run something like Pangoro if you wanted to, just because, my goodness, Machamp was just not catching any leads throughout the day whatsoever. Back in comes Clefable. I will commit the shield. They bait with the Swift. In the back is Malamar, and this game is just a win. I can fire off the Trailblaze to start boosting up my damage. Superpower will hit for neutral, but they basically don't have a lot of fast move pressure because Psywave is going to be resisted. They go for the Superpower. I can tank that no problem, and I'm going to fire off the Trailblaze. I go for a slight undercharge. It still does KO. The Poison Jab does a lot. We get the catch onto the Machamp, catching the Swift. They undercharge to look for the farm down, but Shadow Machamp hangs on, and for the first time, I believe, all video actually does something as it KOs Clefable. We move to the next match. What do you know? Shadow Machamp losing another lead. I save switch into the Drapion, and out comes Guzzlord. This is a situation where Sludge Bomb would be very nice, but regardless, baiting this out is still good. I don't get a Crunch debuff, but I can still compete pretty okay in this matchup as I just continue to spam out these Crunches. Crunch after Crunch connects on the Guzzlord. Guzzlord will fire off a move. I can tank whatever they throw. If they throw the Sludge Bomb, it does slightly more than a Brutal Swing. And here, I'm going to go for an undercharge on this Crunch because I want a bunch of farm on Shadow Machamp. The Crunch actually debuffs there. The one time I did not want it to debuff. That is really not good, as that is going to limit the amount of farm I get on the Machamp. They land the Sludge Bomb. In comes Skeledirge, and I will go for the Cross Chop bait. This is risky, but they have energy on that Skeledirge. I'm going to bank energy, switch into Skuntank. In the back is Licky Licky, and this game does feel quite playable. I'm farming up with the Skuntank, launching that Trailblaze, gonna start boosting up my damage. Trailblaze will connect. They have so much energy on this Licky Licky, I decide to call it. It is just going to be the Body Slam. That's absolutely massive. I do live another Body Slam, but I will decide to shield. Opponent full sends an Earthquake. A Wincon appears, and I immediately throw it away. They were energy dry. I could have massively overfarmed, maybe even farmed down, but instead I throw instantly for no reason at all. And now I've just completely lost because they have back-to-back Disarming Voices. And unfortunately, I barely get knocked out. I can make the payback, but they still have a shield remaining. If I was paying better attention in that particular match, I could have overfarmed more and had a better chance to win. But unfortunately, I did not. So a very winnable game ends in a loss. Hopping into the final match, picking up a great lead, Shadow Machamp versus the Shadow Steelix. Opponent safe switches into Feraligatr. I get some very nice chip damage there with a Cross Chop, and then I can bring in the Drapion. Drapion will be hit with the Hydro Cannon. I fire off the Aqua Tail as I've done enough damage that I think this resisted move will KO. Aqua Tail is able to knock out. In comes that Shadow Steelix. And this Steelix is going to take quite a bit of damage from the Aqua Tails. Aqua Tail number 1 connects. Steelix looking for the farm down, but Drapion able to make Aqua Tail number 2, and this will put the Steelix below half HP. In comes Machamp. Psychic Fangs, I think I can survive, but I will elect to shield it. But my issue is, I'm actually going to get outpaced here. They make another Psychic Fangs. I go down 2 shields to 0. This is really not an amazing spot for me, but they have Galarian Moltres in the back. If they manage energy well, this could get tricky. I'm going to Cross Chop bait, force the shield, and then save a Cross Chop because I know I win charge attack priority. They're going to fire off energy. I do live in Ancient Power. A Brave Bird might KO. I barely hang on. Shadow Skuntank withstands the damage, firing off the Trailblaze. They're going to shield, and this game will end in victory there. I think the opponent was trying to wait a couple turns to maybe stall out the switch timer, but unfortunately, they're not able to save it. Cross Chop KOs. In comes Steelix. Shadow Machamp gets the counter down, and by the narrowest of margins, we take the win. All in all, I think Shadow Skuntank, with this better pacing on Trailblaze, has just turned into an absolute monster. Oh my goodness. Even if you don't necessarily like running the double dark poison strategy, Shadow Skuntank as a closer is incredible. It's so good. That combination of poison, dark, and grass gives you coverage into most dual typings across the meta. So even if you're in a position like against Virizion, where your Crunch and your Trailblaze are walled, you still have super effective poison jabs, and you can ramp up that damage with Trailblaze. So overall, I spent, I think, 540,000 Stardust building the Skuntank, and it performed great for me. So I am very excited to continue to explore this new Open Ultra League meta, knowing that Shadow Skuntank is going to be a terrific Pokemon to use. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.